Sometimes the smallest act of love is buried beneath a storm of despair, like the sound of rustling coins in a nearly empty purse, or the trembling hands of a mother who's run out of options. But fate often works in silence, placing strangers in your path when you least expect it. One watching, one struggling. Both moments from a turning point neither could see coming. It was one of those bitter, windswept mornings where every breath felt like it scraped your lungs. Snow clung to the cracked sidewalks in little piles, turning gray beneath the boots of people rushing in and out of the supermarket. Among them walked Emma, a young single mother with worry stitched across her face and her infant daughter nestled tightly against her chest in a worn-out carrier. Her coat was too thin. Her cheeks were red from the cold. And inside her pocket, she carried exactly $3.72, a few coins she had gathered from beneath sofa cushions, old drawers, and the floor of her car. That money was all she had left. Her baby Luna hadn't stopped crying since dawn. The last diaper was used hours ago, and Emma had no choice but to walk the mile to the store with numb fingers and a heart full of panic. Inside the store, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as she paced the baby aisle, scanning the shelves. She didn't even bother looking at the large packs. Instead, she searched for the smallest one, something she could afford with the change in her hand. She found a 4-pack trial set, tucked low and half crushed. It wasn't much, but it was something. Emma walked toward the register with her head down, clutching the diapers to her chest, blocking out the stares from customers in thick jackets, chatting on phones, buying things by the cartload. She felt invisible, or worse, unwelcome. At register 3, she counted each coin slowly, her hands shaking, cheeks burning with quiet shame, as the clerk looked on with awkward patience. Behind her in line stood Daniel Thorne, though Emma didn't know that yet. Dressed in a plain black wool coat, holding nothing but a bottle of water, he watched the scene with quiet intensity. Daniel was a CEO, a self-made millionaire who owned the tech company 3 blocks away. He wasn't supposed to be here. He usually sent an assistant. But that morning, something pulled him to walk, to see people, to feel something. And as he watched Emma fumble with her coins, apologizing for the delay, whispering softly to the baby who whimpered against her chest, Daniel froze. There was something about her, the desperation, the dignity, the quiet determination to make her daughter's life better, even if it meant buying diapers with pennies. Emma took her change, just a few cents, and turned to leave, not noticing the man who stepped forward behind her. She never saw him quickly pull out his checkbook, scribble a number, and fold it neatly in half. As she walked outside into the freezing wind, trying to tuck the small diaper pack into her bag while holding Luna close, she didn't realize something had been slipped into the side pocket of her worn purse. It would take her hours to notice, but when she did, her world would change. What begins as a silent gesture can echo louder than words, especially when a struggling mother discovers that kindness has slipped quietly into her life, wrapped in mystery and ink. Emma didn't notice the check until much later. She had trudged back home in the cold. Luna finally quiet in her arms, snowflakes catching on her lashes. Their apartment was small, barely insulated, and the heater rattled more than it worked. But it was home, for now. She laid Luna in the crib, wrapped in 2 blankets, and finally allowed herself to breathe. It had been another close call, another day of just a scraping by. She unpacked the bag slowly, diapers, her receipt, and then a folded piece of paper she didn't recognize. Frowning, she opened it. Her breath caught. It was a check, made out to Emma L. Rivera, signed by Daniel Thorne, amount $10,000. Memo, for your daughter. You're not alone. She blinked, stunned, heart pounding. Was this real? Her hands trembled as she examined it again, flipping it over, checking the signature, the watermark. It was authentic and terrifying. Who was Daniel Thorne? How did he know her name? And why? Why would he do something like this? Panic crept in at first. Was this a mistake? A cruel joke? But then she remembered the man at the store, the one in line behind her, the one who had said nothing but had watched everything. She sat on the couch in silence, check still in hand, staring at the baby monitor where Luna slept peacefully for the first time in days. A part of her wanted to tear it up. She didn't want charity, but a bigger part whispered something else. You don't have to fight alone anymore. Across town, Daniel sat in his office on the 20th floor of a glass tower, a skyline behind him, and a file folder on his desk. Inside the folder was her name, Emma Rivera, former teacher, widowed, no family in state, laid off during pandemic cuts, no criminal record, one eviction on file, a single mother surviving on strength alone. He hadn't planned to interfere, but something about her face, fierce, tired, determined, had reminded him of someone, his own mother, decades ago. He had watched her count coins too, and now with more money than he could ever spend, he had quietly written a check, just once, or so he thought. But Emma Rivera had stirred something in him, and it wasn't pity, it was respect. That night, Emma sat at her kitchen table. The check was still there, but now so was something else. A growing sense that her story might not end in struggle, but in connection. Sometimes the greatest mysteries come not from the check in your pocket, but from the heart behind it. Emma didn't cash the check, not yet. For days she kept it tucked safely inside an envelope at the back of her kitchen drawer. She would look at it sometimes, late at night, when Luna was asleep and the house was quiet, when the weight of the world crept in like a draft through the windows. She needed the money desperately, but she needed something else even more. Answers. Who was Daniel Thorne? She didn't want to risk calling the number on the check, if there even was one. She didn't want to walk into a bank and be told it was all some kind of mistake, or worse, that she wasn't supposed to have it. So she turned to the only resource she had, her old laptop and spotty Wi-Fi. The name Daniel Thorne returned pages of results. CEO of ThorneTech. Estimated net worth, $370 million. Known for sudden disappearances from social media and a near-total avoidance of public interviews. Lost his mother at age 10. Fatherless. Foster care. Self-made. Quiet philanthropist. The pieces began to fit. Still, something about it made her uneasy. This man, this stranger, knew her name, had written her a check without asking, without speaking a single word. That kind of kindness didn't just happen. Unless it wasn't just about her. Emma's chest tightened. What if he knew something? What if Luna's father's past, the debt he died trying to clear, had finally caught up to her? That night, while Luna napped on her chest, Emma took a deep breath and sent an email. 2. Outreach@thorntech.com. Subject, a quiet thank you. I think we met, or maybe we didn't, but I wanted to say thank you for whatever it is you saw in me that day. I don't know why you did what you did, but it made me believe that maybe, just maybe, kindness isn't lost in this world. I haven't cashed the check yet. I don't even know if I will. I just wanted to know. Why me? She hovered her finger over the send button for a full minute before finally pressing it. Then she waited. Hours passed, then an entire day. Then at exactly 2:03 a.m., she heard a quiet ding. Her heart raced as she clicked open the reply. From Daniel Thorne. Subject, a quiet, thank you. I don't usually reply to emails, but I remember you. I saw a woman doing everything for her child, without expecting help. I saw someone I once knew, someone who saved me once, long ago. This isn't a handout, it's a promise. You're not invisible, and you're not alone. If you ever need more than money, if you ever just want the truth, reply. No obligations, no press, just people. Emma stared at the screen, breathless, not just because of what he wrote, but because of how he wrote it, like he had once been just as lost as she felt now. Not every rescue comes clean. Sometimes kindness brings its own chaos, especially when pride and past wounds refuse to stay buried. The next morning, Emma stared at the check again. It wasn't just paper anymore. It was a symbol of hope, yes, but also of dependence. And that terrified her more than poverty ever had. She had fought for everything, for every meal, for every night she kept Luna warm when the heater failed, for every time she smiled at her baby while silently crying into her pillow. Now, this stranger, this billionaire, had waltzed in with quiet generosity and cracked the armor she had built around her life. But what scared her more? She wanted to trust him. She didn't reply to his email, not right away. Instead, she took a walk with Luna, bundled in her secondhand stroller, her tiny fingers curled around a worn toy giraffe. The winter air had softened. The city noise faded as they reached the park. It was empty, almost. Standing near the frozen pond in a long black coat was Daniel. Emma froze. He wasn't looking at her. He was watching a boy feed ducks across the ice, his expression unreadable, until he turned and met her eyes. She almost walked away. But then, she didn't. She pushed the stroller slowly across the path, stopping a few feet from him. "You followed me?" she asked, voice tight with caution. "Number, I hoped you'd show up here," he said calmly. "This is where my mother used to bring me when we couldn't afford much. It was free, like peace should be." She hesitated, then said, "I don't want charity. I didn't give it as charity." "Then what was it?" He looked down for a moment, then met her gaze again. "It was a reminder that people still see you, that you matter, even when the world acts like you don't." Emma swallowed hard. "And what do you expect in return?" "Nothing. Ever. But if it helps, maybe just a conversation." That should have been the end of it. But then, just as she was about to speak, a voice called out across the park. "Emma!" She turned sharply. It was Caleb, her late husband's brother, and his expression wasn't warm. "I've been trying to find you," he said, striding forward. "You disappeared. You changed your number. You think hiding with the baby will stop what your husband owed?" Daniel stepped forward slightly, posture alert. Caleb glanced at him, recognizing the suit, the presence. He scoffed. "What? You got a new sponsor now?" Emma's face flushed. "I don't owe you anything." "Oh, no? You think the kind of people your husband borrowed from are just going to forget you exist?" Caleb turned and walked off, tossing one last warning over his shoulder. "You think money will protect you, Emma? It won't. It never does." Daniel didn't say anything for a moment, but then he looked at her and said quietly, "Let me help. Not with money, with protection, with answers. You're in more danger than you think." Emma's walls cracked a little more, but with them came fear, because now this wasn't just about kindness. It was about survival. Even when someone offers their hand, it's hard to take it, especially when every other hand before it left a scar. Emma barely slept that night. Caleb's words echoed in her mind like footsteps on a cold floor. "The kind of people your husband borrowed from, don't forget." She sat on the couch, legs pulled under her, watching Luna sleep in her portable crib beside her. The baby's tiny chest rose and fell gently, peacefully, as if the world outside didn't matter. But Emma knew better. The past was circling back, and she had no idea how close it was. A dozen times she reached for her phone, to call Daniel, to write him back, to accept his offer of help. And each time, her fingers hovered, then stopped. Because somewhere deep inside her, a voice whispered, "You can't trust people like him. He'll want something back. He'll disappear like everyone else." Her pride, once a shield, was now a prison. Across the city, Daniel stared at his own phone, rereading her last message over and over. He could protect her. He wanted to. Not because she was a charity case, but because he believed in her. There was something in Emma's fire, in her loyalty to her child, that made him feel human again in a world full of noise and numbers. But he also knew pushing too hard would break her. So he waited and watched. 2 days later, Emma received a letter in her mailbox. No stamp, no return address, just her name. Inside was a photo, her and Luna, at the park, taken from a distance. Her blood ran cold. Tucked behind it was a note scribbled in pencil. "You shouldn't be so easy to find." No signature, just that. Emma stood frozen, her heart hammering. She looked around the hallway of her building as if someone might be watching right now. She rushed back inside, locked the door, pulled the shades. For the first time in years, she felt hunted. That night, she sat at the table with the check in one hand and the photo in the other, and she finally admitted what she had been avoiding all along. She couldn't do this alone anymore. So at 1:14 a.m., she wrote one line back to Daniel. "I'm ready, but I don't know who to trust." The reply came 5 minutes later. "Start with me. I haven't left." Sometimes the smallest answer, "I haven't left," is enough to reignite something the world tried to steal. Hope. Emma met Daniel again, but this time, not by chance. She stepped into the cafe just off 5th Street, carrying Luna on her hip and a worn diaper bag on her shoulder. The bell over the door jingled softly as she entered. Daniel was already there, seated in the back corner booth. No security, no assistance, just him, waiting. He stood when he saw her, his eyes instantly checking her over, not in judgment, but in quiet concern. Emma sat down across from him. She didn't speak right away. Luna cooed and reached for the sugar packets on the table. Finally, Emma exhaled and said, "Someone left a photo of me and my daughter in my mailbox. No envelope, no stamp, just a message." Daniel's face darkened, but his voice stayed calm. "You were followed." She nodded. "What does that mean? What do they want?" "It means whoever your late husband owed didn't stop looking after he died, and now they think you might be a loose thread." He paused, "which makes you dangerous to them." Emma's lips trembled, but she didn't cry. "So what happens now? I run forever?" Daniel shook his head. "Number this time, we make them run." For the first time in weeks, Emma began to feel something she hadn't dared to believe in. Control. Daniel's plan was swift, quiet, and precise. He moved like someone who had done this before, not with violence, but with intelligence and resources. He made a few calls, had Emma and Luna relocated within 24 hours, a new apartment under an alias, groceries delivered, a burner phone, a lawyer on standby. And through it all, Daniel didn't act like a savior. He didn't hover. He didn't intrude. He just made space for her to breathe again. Emma watched Luna sleep in a clean crib, in a warm, safe room, no leaks in the ceiling, no fear of footsteps outside the door. And for the first time, she let herself hope. Not just that they'd survive this, but that they might actually heal. One evening, a week later, Daniel brought dinner. Just takeout, nothing fancy. They sat on the couch, Luna giggling between them, trying to feed Daniel a soggy puff snack. Emma laughed. The sound surprised even her. Daniel smiled gently. "You're different now." Emma looked at him. "I'm not afraid anymore." He held her gaze. "Good, because I think the people who hurt you are." A quiet moment passed. Then Emma asked, voice low but steady, "Why me? Out of all the women in the world struggling, why did you stop for me?" Daniel didn't hesitate. "Because when I saw you in that store, using your last coins on diapers, you looked like someone who would never stop fighting, and I knew if someone like you could keep going, I had no excuse not to help." Emma's eyes shimmered. "You could have walked away." He replied, voice like truth. "I did that once. I won't do it again." Some promises are silent, sealed not with words but with the way someone looks at you and stays, long after the world has given up. It had been 2 weeks since Emma and Luna moved into the safe apartment Daniel arranged. No one had followed, no more letters, no more photos, just silence and safety. And in that silence, something grew between her and Daniel. Quiet, unspoken, real. It was in the way he never rushed her, the way he always texted, "Need anything?" instead of "Can I come over?" It was in the way he held Luna, gently but without hesitation, in the way Luna reached for him now, trusting him like she'd known him forever. That night, Emma cooked dinner. Just spaghetti, a small thank you for everything. Daniel sat at the little dining table while Luna played nearby with her stuffed giraffe. Emma served him a bowl, hands still trembling just a little. "I haven't had a dinner table like this in a long time," he said. She smiled. "Neither have I." They ate mostly in silence, comfortable silence, until Emma finally set her fork down and looked at him seriously. "I need to ask you something," she said. "Anything. If you help me, really help me get rid of this threat. These people. Will you disappear after that? Will you vanish like the check? Like the money? Like the offer? Daniel was quiet for a long moment. His jaw tightened slightly like the question hit something deep. Then he stood up, walked to his coat pocket, and pulled out a small velvet box. Emma's breath caught, but when he opened it, it wasn't a ring. It was a key to the apartment next door. He placed it gently on the table between them. "I'm not proposing. I'm not pushing," he said softly. "I'm promising that I'll never leave unless you ask me to." Emma stared at the key, her throat tight. "Why next door?" "Because I want to protect you without owning you." The moment stretched between them, then she reached out, picked up the key, and held it in her hand. "Okay," she whispered. "Then I promise something too." He looked at her. "I won't run anymore." Later that night, after Luna had fallen asleep and the snow began falling again outside the window, Daniel lingered at the door. He looked at Emma, eyes soft, tired, honest. "No matter what comes next, I'm here," he said. And she, for the first time in a very long time, believed him. Sometimes joy doesn't arrive with fireworks. It slips in quietly like sunlight through a window you forgot to close. The morning after their promise, Emma woke up to something rare. Laughter, not Luna's, though hers followed closely behind, but Daniel's. It came from the kitchen where he stood barefoot in rolled-up sleeves, trying and failing to flip pancakes while Luna sat in her high chair, squealing with glee as batter dripped on the floor. Emma leaned in the doorway, arms crossed, smiling in disbelief. "You realize you just wasted 2 eggs and possibly your dignity?" Daniel turned, a smear of flour across his cheek. "For the record, Luna thinks I'm a culinary genius." Luna threw a spoon. Daniel ducked. Emma laughed. The apartment felt warmer than usual, though the thermostat hadn't moved. There was a glow in the air, a stillness not of fear, but of belonging. They ate pancakes together, messy, burnt-edged, but filled with something Emma hadn't tasted in years: peace. After breakfast, they bundled up and went outside. Snow had fallen overnight, blanketing the world in white silence. Luna's tiny boots made soft crunches in the snow as Daniel gently pulled her along in a plastic sled. Emma walked beside them, watching, taking it in. For once there was no deadline, no rent hanging over her head, no fear stalking her around corners, no eyes watching from across the street. Just a man, a child, and her. Later that day, Daniel surprised her again, with a job offer. "I talked to someone I trust," he said. "They need a program coordinator for a literacy initiative we're funding. Remote, flexible hours, full benefits. I didn't tell them your story. I let your resume speak for itself." Emma blinked, stunned. "You used my resume?" He smiled. "I might have added a small note that said, 'Hire her or we're no longer friends.' But yes." She laughed, covering her mouth, overwhelmed. "Daniel, I don't know what to say." "Say yes." She looked down at Luna, who was now curled up asleep on the couch with her giraffe. Then she looked back at Daniel, and for the first time in years, without hesitation, Emma said, "Yes." That night, while Luna slept and Daniel washed dishes, Emma lit a candle on the windowsill. A quiet symbol of hope, of new beginnings, of light returning. She didn't need the check anymore. She didn't need rescue. She had something better now, a reason to believe. Not all storms roar. Some arrive slowly, quietly, testing not just how strong you are, but how strong you are together. 3 months passed. Emma found rhythm. Work in the mornings, Luna in the afternoons, Daniel almost every evening. They were never rushed, never labeled. But everything between them grew, like roots beneath the snow, patient and powerful. But life, as always, had its own timing. It began with a call, a number she didn't recognize, a voice that made her stomach drop. "Ms. Rivera," the man said, low and calm, "we know where you are." She froze. "You think we care about your charity boyfriend and his bodyguards? This isn't over." Click. Daniel was out of town for 2 days, speaking at a summit in D.C. His phone had been off during the event. Emma didn't want to worry him, not yet. She went through her day, lips smiling, mind racing. That night, Luna fell asleep beside her early. Emma stayed awake until 2 a.m., staring at the door, holding the baby monitor like a weapon. Nothing happened, but it was enough. The next morning, she packed a bag. When Daniel returned, she was already waiting in his building's lobby. He barely stepped out of the elevator before she threw herself into his arms. "They called," she whispered. "They know where we are." His jaw clenched, but his hands were gentle. "I'll take care of it." "No," she said. "We'll take care of it. Together." For the next week, everything intensified. Daniel hired security, but discreet. No guns, no flashing badges. Just trained shadows, eyes on exits, silent professionals. Emma agreed, reluctantly, to move in with him temporarily. Not because she was weak, because she was ready to stand her ground. And she wasn't alone. The pressure came fast. A man was spotted outside the old apartment. A vehicle followed her to the grocery store. A letter was left on Daniel's office desk, despite tight protocols. It read, "Your money won't save her. She still owes." Daniel burned it in the sink that night, standing behind Emma in the kitchen, arms around her. But he didn't burn out. He grew more focused, more intentional. He cooked more, held Luna longer, called Emma by her full name when she was anxious, like anchoring her to reality. And when she finally broke, one night, sobbing in the laundry room, whispering, "I'm scared to sleep," he knelt down, took both her hands and said, "Let them come. Let them try. Because now, we're not afraid of the dark." And in that storm, the three of them didn't just survive. They endured. Not because they were fearless, but because they were together. Endings aren't always loud. Sometimes they feel like a sunrise, soft, warm, and full of quiet promise. It took just one mistake for them. The men who had been watching Emma slipped up. A tail caught on traffic cameras. A license plate flagged. A photo sent to the wrong person. Daniel's team moved fast. Federal agents stepped in. Within 72 hours, the ring was broken. The man behind the threats, Caleb's old associate, was arrested with two others in a sting operation outside Chicago. Charges stacked high: weapons, fraud, extortion. Emma got the call while changing Luna's diaper. She stared at the wall for a long moment, then sat down on the couch and cried, not from fear, but from relief, from the sudden, terrifying freedom of realizing the shadows had finally lifted. That night, she didn't say anything to Daniel at first. He came home with takeout and two paperbacks, thinking maybe they'd read instead of watching TV. But as he walked in, Emma stepped into his arms and whispered, "We're free." He understood instantly, held her tighter, didn't say a word. Some victories don't need confetti, they just need breath. A week later, they moved again, but not out of fear, out of choice. A two-bedroom house with a porch, a swing for Luna, a backyard where Emma could plant tomatoes, where Daniel could escape the skyscrapers, where no one could find them unless invited. Emma took the job full-time. She built lesson plans again. She wrote by the window with Luna curled at her feet. And every morning, Daniel brought her coffee, black, 2 sugars, before heading to his new role. Working less, living more. The neighbors thought they were married. They weren't, yet, but they laughed every time someone asked. One warm spring evening, Emma stood in the kitchen, barefoot, the smell of garlic and fresh bread in the air. Daniel walked in, Luna riding on his shoulders, giggling, a tiny paper crown on her head made from a cereal box. Emma raised an eyebrow. "Queen of the pantry again?" "She rules with sticky fingers and bedtime extensions," Daniel said solemnly. Emma smiled. "I'd die for her." Daniel met her gaze, serious now. "You already live for her. That's braver." She turned back to the stove, heart full. This was their life now. Not perfect, not flashy, but theirs. A beginning born not from wealth or luck, but from seeing each other when no one else did. Real love isn't proven in words or gifts. It's proven in the moment someone is willing to lose everything, just to keep you safe. It was supposed to be over. But sometimes ghosts don't stay buried. Emma and Daniel had just returned from a late walk. Luna had fallen asleep in Daniel's arms, her cheek resting on his shoulder, her paper crown now folded in Emma's bag. The porch light was still on when they stepped onto the front steps. The night was quiet, too quiet. That's when Daniel saw it. A small red mark spray-painted on the front of the mailbox. A symbol, one he recognized. His blood ran cold. He turned to Emma, handing Luna into her arms without a word. "Go inside. Lock the door. Now." Emma's breath caught. "Daniel!" He didn't explain. He didn't have time, because two shadows were already moving out of the trees across the street. Daniel stepped off the porch, hands raised. "You don't want to do this." One of them pulled something from his coat, a weapon, crude, not professional. Daniel's voice rose, calm but firm. "She has nothing to do with this. Take me. Leave them." Emma stood at the window, holding her daughter, heart racing. She couldn't hear what was being said, but she could see the way Daniel stood. Still, brave, unarmed. A moment later, a black SUV with tinted windows pulled up from down the street, tires screeching, Daniel's backup. The attackers fled, but not before one of them turned and fired. A single shot cracked through the air. Emma screamed. Daniel fell to one knee. The world stopped. Later in the hospital, the doctor said it missed his lung. Barely. A few inches over, and Emma sat by his bedside, gripping his hand like it was the last thread holding her up. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "Yes," Daniel said, his voice hoarse. "I did." Tears fell down her cheeks. "I can't lose you." He looked at her with every ounce of strength he had left. "You won't." "I thought it was over," she whispered. "I thought we were safe." "We are safe, because now they know. If they want to come for you again, they'll have to go through me, and I'm not leaving." Emma laid her head on his chest, careful not to touch the bandages. "You scared me." He ran his fingers through her hair gently. "And I'd do it again," he said, "because loving you is worth every risk." Some endings don't feel like endings at all, just music softening into silence, where every note played was worth the pain, and every moment led here. 3 months passed. Daniel recovered, slower than he liked, stronger than anyone expected. Emma never left his side, not once. Luna, oblivious to the bullets and shadows, kept smiling, dancing in her pajamas, drawing stick figures of Mama and Dan. Her world had only ever known love because Emma made sure of it, and now, so did Daniel. The threats faded, for real this time. The final arrests had been made. Daniel's legal team cleaned the remnants of danger from their lives like removing poison from a wound. But something else changed too. Emma no longer looked over her shoulder. Daniel no longer felt the need to carry the weight of the world. They woke up late on Sundays, made pancakes together. Emma taught Daniel how not to burn them. Luna always demanded rainbow sprinkles on hers. They worked in the garden, taught Luna how to say tomato, said "I love you" like it was normal, like it had always been that way. One evening, they sat out on the porch. Luna was asleep inside, the baby monitor humming beside them. The sky glowed with the kind of orange that only summer evenings could bring. Daniel reached into his pocket, this time not for a check, not for a key, but for a ring. Simple, elegant, rose gold. He didn't kneel, didn't give a speech. He just looked at her, eyes soft, voice steady. "I'm not asking for perfection, or forever without storms. I'm asking if we can keep walking, together. One day, one joy, one battle at a time." Emma smiled, tears in her eyes, laughter behind them. "You already had my yes, the moment you slipped that check into my bag." They married in a quiet garden, just friends. No press, no noise. Luna was the flower girl, dropping petals with both hands, and then forgetting to stop. There were no fireworks, no grand performances, just 3 people, once broken, once alone, now whole, together. And somewhere, on a shelf in their home, behind baby books and framed photos, was a check for $10,000, never cashed, never torn, just kept. A reminder that sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change an entire life.